years since the tragic events at the Pulse nightclub rocked our community. I'd like to invite you in joining me for a moment of silence as we honor the victims and their families. Thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors. Our bronze sponsors are Lynn and David Brethelman. And our Voting Voices sponsors are Michelle Levy, Lori and Richard Wack, and Charlie Williams. And our visionary sponsors are Jennifer and Phil Anderson. If you are interested in being a sponsor, please contact Lee Rambo Kemp. And now will all of our sponsors, please, Lee, you want to wave? Yeah, there you go, okay. Will all of our sponsors please stand for just a moment to be recognized? Thank you, thank you. Now we have the time where elected officials and anyone who has declared and is running for office can introduce themselves. Please make a line over by the microphone to my left, your right. I will remind you that there are no speeches. We thank you in this very packed program for following that, so please.
Good afternoon. My name is LaShonda Jackson. I'm running for Circuit Court Judge in the 9th Judicial Circuit, Group 5.
Thank you for modeling how to do that.
Sheila DeCiccio, Mayor of Winter Park, and welcome to our beautiful city. Thank you.
Matthew Grholski, Supervisor. Oh my God, that's the topic day. I'm running for Soil and Water District 2 to make history as the first ever non-binary elected official in the state of Florida.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Kelly Sumrad. I'm running for Orange County District 5 Commissioner. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jason Willis. I'm running for Circuit Court Judge, Group 37.
Good afternoon. My name is Alicia Payton, and I'm running for Circuit Court Judge in the 9th Circuit, Orange and Osceola Counties, Group 15.
Let's remember to hold our applause.
Hello, I am in Seminole County. My name is Deborah Poulalian. I'm running for Supervisor of Elections. Seminole.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Vanos, and I'm running for Orange County School Board District 6.
Hi, I'm Ann Copenhaver, and I'm running for re-election to the Urban Orlando Community Development District, seat number 4.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Lisa Gonguerrero, and I'm running for Orange County Judge in Group 11. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marcia Summersill, and I'm running for Florida House, District 39.
I'm Marty Sullivan.
And I'm Todd Weaver.
And we are the Commissioners for Winter Park.
Great, so I want to let you know that I think the candidates and elected officials did a great job. The rest of you didn't really follow instructions, so we're glad you're here anyway. All right, so we're going to begin our program this morning. Yes, by hearing from Glen Gilzean, Orange County's current Supervisor of Elections. Mr. Gilzean was appointed this March by Governor Ron DeSantis following the retirement of Bill Cowles in January of 2024. Please welcome Mr. Gilzean.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So, before I begin, I just want to continue to remember those 49 lives that were lost 8 years ago. You know, that moment is when our community was changed forever. We witnessed the worst that humanity has to offer, but also the best when our community came together. We were able to mourn, comfort, and embrace one another. So I do want to just take a moment to recognize that. I also want to just take a moment to thank the League of Women Voters for having me here today. Our office are pleased to have a strong partnership, strong partnership with the League and the dedicated leaders like our past president, Tiffany Hughes, and our current president, Ms. Kathy Schultz. So we continue to work with you and looking forward to that. I'll be remiss if I don't thank the staff. The outstanding staff is here. If you have not had a chance to fill out your vote by mail form, please stop by and say hi to Heidi. Okay, so the Supervisor of Elections Office play a critical role in ensuring that every Orange County citizen voice is heard. For many years, the League have been a faithful Adopt a Precinct sponsor organization and has played a vital role in our voter outreach efforts. I am so grateful for your support and thank you. Today, I'm deeply humbled and honored to stand before you as the first ever African American to hold this position. I am keenly aware that I'm only able to reach these heights because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants whose sacrifice and their discipline paved the way. Speaking of paving the way, I would like to recognize one of your own, Ms. Karen Willis, your treasurer, because Ms. Karen Willis was the deciding vote on the search committee that approved my appointment as president and CEO of the Central Florida Urban League. And as a former CEO of the Orange County Early Learning Coalition, she has not only dedicated her life to the development of underprivileged children, but she's fought for the quality of childcare and also continues to serve our community as one of our outstanding poll workers. I know that Karen is not here today, but I just would be remiss if I didn't say thank you, Karen, for believing in me, but then also all that you do in the community. Give her a round of applause for our friend Karen. So, elections, they're the heartbeat of our democracy. They are how we, the people, express our will, shape our future, and how we hold our leaders accountable. Your organization's vision of democracy, where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate, deeply resonates with me. The right to vote is a sacred liberty that defines our republic. In this role, I am committed to safeguarding the sanctity of this process and ensuring that remains transparent, fair, and accessible to all. In the coming months, we will face numerous challenges and opportunity. The landscape of voting is constantly evolving with new technologies, laws, and societal changes. That is why within the first 9 days of my appointment, we implemented the first ever electoral live stream feature in the state of Florida, and arguably across the country. Creating this additional transparency will not only engage more citizens, but also enhance the electoral process.
(2024) shaping up to be a big year on the ballot, and although the presidential race has pretty much been set at this point, there are still a number of local elections that mean a lot this spring. The polls are already open in a way, with early voting running through 6 p.m. Sunday and then reopening at 7 a.m. Tuesday for Election Day.
The
The first election cycle is also important for Orange County's newly appointed Supervisor of Elections, Glen Gilzean. He is the first new supervisor in more than 3 decades after his predecessor, Bill Cowles, decided to retire earlier this year. Gilzean spoke with News 6 investigator Mike Holfeld, who told him he wants to eliminate any doubt of accuracy by live streaming the ballot counting process.
Those are the little things that I believe won't cost us anything, but it will add added transparency and give every Orange County citizen an opportunity to see how their vote is counted.
And tonight we're getting a first-hand look at how that process will work. The Orange County Elections Office ran a test of the live streaming feed, and News 6 investigator Mike Holfeld takes us behind the scenes in a story you'll only see on 6.
So if you go to the ocfelections.gov website and you click on ballot processing live stream,
fill in your name, address, and email. Submit, and you're in. Just like that.
Just like that.
Welcome to live stream on OrangeCountyFloridaOfElections.com.
And what are we watching right now?
Right now we're watching all the ballots being processed.
The technology has always been there. When the chairs were full, overflow crowds could observe Orange County's mail-in ballot count from monitors in the Supervisor of Elections building. Well, now, transparency is going live stream, coast to coast.
I think we are probably the first county in the state that has this system, a live streaming system.
Daniel Reese is the Chief Information Officer for Orange County's Supervisor of Elections Office. We met with him on Thursday as the live stream experiment made its unofficial debut.
Right now we are processing the vote-by-mail ballots, but at some point we're going to start processing the early voting ballots as well, and then election day ballots. So every single ballot that gets cast will go through this room and will get tabulated and processed through the high-speed machines.
Glen Gilzean, the newly appointed Orange County Supervisor of Elections, is behind this high-tech transparency project.
The true intent is just to show that our elections are safe. When an Orange County citizen votes, their vote is counted. And more importantly, there's transparency.
So far, so good?
Yes, sir.
So this is what you'll see on your smartphone, computer, you name it. Live stream, accuracy, transparency. No questions asked. What's going on behind us here?
Right now, it's the process of opening and taking out the ballots.
Judge Jeanette Bigney is the chair of the Orange County Supervisor of Elections Canvassing Board. 3 members, 3 alternates, always observing the process and maintaining accuracy.
The staff goes through the ballots first. Any discrepancies or questions go to the canvassing board.
The privacy remains, but you're able to see in real time what's going on.
Correct.
So
that's my understanding.
You feel comfortable with that?
It's new, and with anything, there might be issues, but we'll see how this rolls out.
So remember, March 19th, the dress rehearsal begins. Sign up, observe, and be part of the process. Mike Holfeld, getting results, News 6.
So this system allows voters to log in from the convenience of their homes, using their smartphones, as you just heard, or their tablets, to view the process. And I truly believe that's just one way of us to create the fostering trust and interest within our work. We had over 1,000 people participate in this pilot run with just 24 hours worth of announcing it. So that just shows how important this process is going forward. It is our duty to innovate and constantly strive for excellence while following the law as written. We must ensure that our electoral system is robust but secure. I'd like to highlight another example of our office efforts to increase voter education and voter turnout in Orange County. About 3 weeks ago, I announced the unveiling of new precincts and new polling location, a landmark moment in our county's electoral process. In the face of the rapid population growth, we're not just adopting, but we're thriving. The creation of the 4 new precincts and the adjustment of 7 new polling locations will ensure that every voice is heard. We are distributing new voter ID cards and providing voter education resources. We're paving a way for a smoother and more accessible elections. My office is dedicated to empowering our community as we shape the future. The precincts and polling changes will impact roughly 25,000 voters across the 3 areas in Orange County: Lake Nona, Apopka, and the Dr. Phillips area. The modification brings our precinct count from 255 to 259. We expect this this trend of growth to continue, and by November, Orange County will become the 4th largest supervisor of elections office and the 3rd most populous state in the nation. Since being appointed, my administration has successfully managed 3 elections, demonstrating our office capability and readiness to handle any challenges we face. At this moment, I always take the time to stop and thank Bill Cowles, because without Bill Cowles putting an amazing team together with over 425 years worth of experience, that would have never happened. So kudos to Bill. Bill is also watching via live stream. Love you, Bill. So, with that said, it's time for me to get off, but I'll be remiss if I don't say about the D5 election that our great team is being at work. We have the polls open from 7 to 7 next week, Tuesday. There's 5 locations. We know Majestic Church, we know Firehouse 12, the Jackson Community Center, Northwest Center, and more importantly, Rock Lake Center, which I know our friends at the league manages. Now I know what it feels like when somebody says, hey, you got to get off the mic real quick, right? I've witnessed people do it, but I'm like, oh, I gotta hurry up. So with that said, I'll conclude my remarks, but I just want to say thank you to the league for all that you do, and thank you for your commitment. And I would love for us to get together, as we know that we've submitted our budget for $1 million in voter education, and I love that the league will be able to help us figure out how we're going to utilize those resources. With that said, thank you, Madam. All right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gilzean, for joining us today and for that information and for the updates. And now we turn to our forum for Supervisor of Election candidates. It's an important position, especially this year with so much at stake. On the ballot, it's going to be a long ballot with critical amendments to the state constitution as well as local charter amendments. If you haven't filled out the form to receive your vote by mail ballot, please visit the tables in the hall today. Talk to your family and neighbors and friends and let them know how important and convenient it is to vote by mail. Preparing for the election this year is a lot like preparing for hurricanes. You do the best you can and hope it won't be a bumpy ride. We're very proud of our voter services committee members and everything that they have done to get ready for the primary and the general elections. Can I ask the members of our voter services team to stand, please? And you can thank them even better by looking at our volunteer opportunities and signing up to help them at their many events that will be coming up in the next few months. Now I'd like to welcome Nick Shaheen, who is our moderator today. He is counsel for Orange County Supervisor of Elections Office and former general counsel for 13 plus years, and very knowledgeable about elections and election law. Mr. Shannin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Reverend. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for allowing me to moderate this really, really important presentation of candidates. We have 5 candidates who have currently qualified to run to fill the great shoes of the Orange County Supervisor of Elections, and I, for one, can't wait to hear their viewpoints on the small little issues involving election law that might be out there. So without further ado, I'm going to call them each up one at a time, and as I do so, as I introduce them, I want that candidate to come up, take your table, and then we'll get this party started. We will, in proper electoral ballot methodology for the state of Florida, go in alphabetical order. So first is Karen Castor-Dental. I've got more to read here, but former public school teacher, elected to the Florida House of Representatives in 2012, and has served us as Orange County School Board since 2018. Thank you, Karen. Next up, Cynthia Harris, a community advocate with a background in business development. She has served as executive director for the Carson Cheney House from 2008 till present. Welcome. Next, Dan Helm, a lawyer with a keen interest in election law, who has served as Deputy Regional Director for Voter Protection here in Central Florida. Welcome, candidate Helm. Next, we have Wes Hodge, a real estate agent who has been active in county administration and has served as chairman of the Orange County Democratic Executive Committee for over 6 years. Welcome, candidate Hodge. Last but certainly not least is Sunshine Grund, a real estate broker and former candidate for Orlando Mayor. Welcome. All right, so our first question for the candidates is the first question always asked of all applicants for an interview for college, a job, or anything else. And that is the proverbial question of why? Given all of the interest and attention being paid to our election supervisors, why are you drawn to the office of Supervisor of Election, and what in your background do you believe helps qualify you for this position? And you get to answer this in all of 60 seconds. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with Ms. Dental, and we'll just go down the row.
All right, thank you so much, Nick, and thank you all for being here. This is an important race, arguably the most important one on the ballot. I was immersed in elections from the age of 5 when my mother ran for county commission in Hillsborough to be the first woman elected to the county commission. And my father was an elected judge as well. So they taught me the value of public service and the importance of serving with integrity. I've been engaged in all aspects of elections for the last 50 years. From registering voters, getting signatures, running elections for election myself, and I've represented this area for the last 6 years on the school board. I care about democracy. I care about this community. I believe my years of public service and elected office have prepared me with the knowledge and skills to serve. I have experience being held accountable to the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harris.
First, I want to thank the League for having this forum. My name is Cynthia Harris, and I am your candidate for Orange County Supervisor of Elections. The reason I am running is because in June 1919, there were 2 little girls that were the most important ladies in my life, my grandmothers. They were ages 3 and 4. At that time, when the 19th Amendment was ratified, they weren't able to vote, and neither were their mothers or their grandmothers. But my grandmothers never stopped the fight for getting their opportunity to vote. 45 years later, my grandmothers were able to vote. One lasted to 102, and she was able to vote for the first black president of the United States. I have worked elections since the Al Gore era, so I have been a volunteer, and I have been pounding the pavement and pounding my community to make sure that elections matter. I've never stopped that fight, and this is why I am running for office, because I am standing on the shoulder of giants. These are the ladies that paved the way for me, they paved the way for you, and this is why we are here where we are now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Helm.
Hello, I'm Dan Helm. I'm running for supervisor elections for Orange County. My website is votedanhelm.com. I want to thank the League for hosting this forum, the best public affairs forum in town. I had the pleasure to come last month where we talked about the important issue of Amendment 4 and abortion. And so I hope that today's forum is as powerful and informative as it was last month. I view this office as a fairly nonpartisan role. I think that it's important that it stays nonpartisan. This is an exception. I stand in solidarity for yes on 4. I'm a father. I'm to a 2-year-old that's passionate. I'm a husband to a phenomenal woman who works as an OBGYN hospitalist with Advent Health, and she's pregnant, and we're expecting our second child this fall. So in our personal and professional lives, Amendment 4 matters. It's a daily discussion. So I appreciate the opportunity that this league provided to provide that forum. You'll hear more about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helm. Mr. Hodge.
Thank you, Mr. Shannin. So my pants are here because they split wide open as soon as I sat down this morning, so it's only going uphill from here. My name is Wes Hodge, and this weekend I was at a convention, a joint convention with the NAACP and the Black Caucus, and the theme of that convention was democracy will not die on our watch. And that is where we're at right now. We are at a precipice where we could lose what we have as a country. And there is no better or more important role than the Supervisor of Elections to defend that democracy. And you know, I've had the pleasure of serving as the Orange County Democratic Party chair for 6 years. I've been involved with the elections office for 10 years, and I've gotten to know the staff very well. I know them, they know me, we work great together. And it's that experience, that insight that prepares me more than anybody else up here to be ready on day one, because we don't have a whole lot of time. As soon as we get sworn in January, there's an election in March, and we've got to hit the ground running. And so for me, I'm all about service and not about status. Thank you.
So I don't know if we're going to get Super Bowl ratings, but we have apparently already survived a wardrobe malfunction. So there's that going for us. All right, Candidate Grund.
Thank you, and thank you to the League for hosting this great event and educating and informing our electorate, which is part of why I'm running. And I also want to thank the voters out there, if you're watching live on Facebook Live, and you hopefully are being educated and informed, even though you're not in the room. Hopefully you're out there and you're staying engaged in our electoral process. I got involved in politics running for mayor, and I didn't win. And shortly after that election, Bill and I were in a fundraiser event, and he said, "Oh, Sunshine, after you didn't win, I was concerned that you'd run after my seat," which I thought was funny. And I was like, "No, Bill, I'm not here for your seat." But he planted a seed, just as people throughout my lifetime have poured into me and planted seeds that we can make a difference. He made a difference. I appreciate his service. And so when he announced his retirement, I started thinking about it. And I was reading a book, Good to Great. I don't know if anybody's read it in the room. You all seem like leaders, so you may have. And so I think Bill did a great job. And so maybe we could write a book in Orange County, Great to Greater. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, we've heard the mission statement, so now let's dive right into the substantive issues that surround this particular office. Everyone in this room is well aware that it's been decades since we all voted on a single day, election day, that we instead here in Orange County and throughout Florida have 3 different forms of voting. We have vote by mail, we have early voting, and then finally election day itself comes, and our electorate seems to have split pretty well in past elections amongst these 3 different forms of voting. The one that starts first, vote by mail, has apparently picked up a little bit of controversy in the last election or so, and I'm going to make that the source of the next question, which is for the candidates to talk about vote by mail, your thoughts on whether vote by mail should be expanded or contracted, and then perhaps your thoughts on the new, quote, secure ballot intake stations that are the formerly known as drop boxes for absentee ballots to be placed in. So we started with Ms. Castrodino last, so we'll move to Ms. Harris to start us off with your thoughts on vote by mail.
So vote by mail has been really a hot topic for us all. I believe in vote by mail because it does provide accessibility to all who are not able to go to the polls. The drop box issue, I want to make sure I cover everything. I think that the drop box is effective when it is secure. So if there's a drop box at your SOE office and you're bringing in your ballot, I believe that that is the safest and most effective way to make sure that our vote matters and it does count. I think that vote by mail has worked for us so far, and I think that if we continue our efforts in making sure that it's accessible to all, we can also make sure that our democracy and our voice are heard and read.
Thank you. Mr. Helm.
I believe in universal postage paid vote by mail. I think it's a great accessible way for people to exercise their franchise. Particularly, we live in the hurricane state, and so having a redundancy in place, making sure you get that vote by mail ballot, just in case that you have inclement weather and you can't make it to early voting, or you can't make it to election day, you can vote by mail. It's a great thing. The problem is the legislature keeps moving the goalpost on what is required. So make sure that you renew your vote by mail. It expires almost at the end of every election cycle, every 2 years. So you have to renew it every time. That's a big burden to Supervisor Elections Office. Additionally, we talk about secure ballot intake stations. Again, there's a concern. I don't have the same, personally, I don't think it makes common sense. When I put my vote by mail in a blue mailbox, I think that's pretty secure. But the legislature wants us to have poll workers be at the secure ballot intake stations. And if they don't, there's a huge fine. So there's a burden on, in only certain times you can be at the, there's a lot of law here. I'm a lawyer. I'm trained in the law. I'm happy to discuss it some.
Excellent. And I'm actually going to follow up on this in a moment with a short little addendum opportunity, so you may get your chance. But before we do that, Mr. Hodge, let's hear your thoughts on the vote by mail and the restrictions.
Absolutely. So first, Orange County has covered postage for vote by mail since 2016, and I think that that has been a great improvement in the process here. I always tease people that voting by mail is the most convenient way, and in fact, you can vote in your underwear, and you all almost saw me do that earlier today. But it's a great opportunity for people to get familiar with those complex constitutional amendment questions and ballot initiatives that are on there. And so it's a great way for people to study and understand what they're voting for. However, there's a large group of our population that just doesn't trust it. And they don't feel like if they vote by mail, their vote is going to be counted. Now, we have a great ballot tracking system that clearly is not promoted well enough. So we need to inform our community about that more. But it is a great, safe, and secure way to vote. Also, as far as the ballot drop, secure ballot drop boxes, I would love to see them expanded, but there's a balance we have to figure out. We have to provide security for the staff that are there while not leaving them out in the public to be harassed by, the community members that might want to interfere with our election. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grund.
I think the majority of our 660,000 registered voters, vote by mail may be the only way they can cast their vote. And I think engaging with them and informing them on how they can get involved in the process is imperative, and I think vote by mail is how we do it. You do need to re-register your vote by mail, so if you're watching right now and you haven't done that, you have to submit that through the Supervisor of Elections for every election now. That was changed with our legislature, so I think it's a matter of just being out there, and I think the League and all our nonprofits out there who are really engaging with our citizens. Now, as far as the lockbox goes, right now, we'll probably talk about security as we go along in this discussion, but currently it's inside the Supervisor of Elections office and it's locked outside. So you have to get out of your car, you have to submit for the special election. I'm going to use this opportunity again, make sure you're voting in District 5 for that special election. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Castro-Dental.
Thank you. So raise your hand if you have already requested your vote by mail ballot. This is a great group, but I don't see everybody. Some people say that they will vote in person, but like someone said on the panel, you need a backup plan. This is a busy hurricane season, and our first election is in August, so please do that. I know people already understand why, or the convenience of vote by mail, of no transportation is needed, no long lines, you don't have to stand out in the hot sun. But really, we used to have about 270,000 vote by mail requests at the supervisor's office, and now we're down to about 80,000. It is the role of the supervisor to get that information out and let the registered voters know. And I don't think that we've done enough to really get that message out, just looking at the data. So I think that that is something that we need to do as far as drop boxes and the restrictions. That's just another way to suppress the vote.
All right, thank you. I'm going to stay with the subject of vote by mail for just a little bit more, and by just a little bit more, I mean we're going to give you 30-second answers to this supplemental part of the question. That back when I started advising the Supervisor of Elections, if a person tried to vote absentee but their signature didn't match the signature on file, they were not allowed to vote, and there was no opportunity to cure. A group sued in federal court, and I can't remember the name of that group. But darn if they weren't tenacious, and they won. And so now voters have the opportunity to cure, and that cure is allowed up until 5 p.m. the Thursday following the election. So my question to you on the panel is, what are your views of the signature matching issues, and what a supervisor might you do to help to promote the opportunity to cure? And I believe now we will start with Mr. Helm.
Checks and balances, right? So there's a process in place that allows a cure affidavit. My work 10 years ago, Voter Protection Central Florida, I was in charge of 13 different counties in Central Florida, including Orange County. In that work, that's where my passion grew. I learned what a good supervisor election does and how they can make a difference. I think you're only giving me 30 seconds, so I have to be quick. So in terms of cure affidavits, that's the work, right? Making sure that we have cure affidavits, signature verification, making sure that people update their signatures. That is an important work that I've done a number of years, and my time's done.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge, if you want to pick up where he left off.
But I can't. So this is exactly in my wheelhouse. When I was Democratic Party chair in 2016, the law changed in 2019 where the SOE, the Supervisor of Elections, had to notify the voter. But prior to that, it was just, if you found out, great. If not. So as party chair, we initiated a program to reach out to voters and say, hey, your signature didn't match, or you forgot to sign your ballot. Here's the form. Where are you right now? I will send somebody to you to sign this form and get a picture of your driver's license, and we'll help you take care of it. That program has now been replicated in multiple counties across the state. I'm very proud of that.
Ms. Grund.
I know I still look forever 21, but a couple decades ago I was a lifeguard, and one of the main goals in that position when I was in high school was prevention. So in order, obviously you don't want to have to do CPR in someone swimming and not able to do what they need to do in the water. Well, in elections, what do you need to do? You need to have your signature, and you need to know what your signature looks like on your driver's license. So a lot of people just sign and scribble and they think it's no big deal. So again, it goes back to informing our electorate.
Good point. Thank you. Ms. Castor-Dentel.
Thank you. So to cure a ballot, it takes a lot of legwork and relies on a lot of outside groups. And so I believe that the supervisor's office should be much more proactive in notifying people about the importance of their signature and getting that message out, pushing out with a communications plan, and making sure that the ability to access those offices are available. So I support expanding satellite branches so that people have access. It's more convenient for them. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Harris, you get the last word on this.
Just like the league is very important when they're getting out the vote, retention is always key when you're trying to get them to the polls. And I think that we should galvanize with more organizations to make sure that we inform and educate not just our staff, but our voters. Our voters need to be educated, because just like they need to be educated on amendments, they need to be educated on how the process works. And if we can continue our work as educating our voters, then we can make sure that we're not 1%, but 99%.
All right. Thank you all for your comments on that important topic. I'm going to now migrate from vote by mail to early voting. We know that there is some flexibility of the offices with regard to the days or hours, and there is always the ever-present potential of the legislature to impact that subject. What are your thoughts on restrictions on early voting, or the site restrictions where early voting can do, and what would you as an SOE do to promote or increase access of voters to early voting? Mr. Hodge, you get to start.
Thank you. Lines at early voting centers is voter suppression, period. My husband and I, when we came to vote in 2022, right over there, stood in line for over 45 minutes waiting to cast our ballot. You have to look no further than Hillsborough County, which is very similar to us in size. They have 28 early voting centers. We have 20. That tells me we need at least 8 more early voting centers to accommodate our growth. But not only that, Palm Beach County has an amazing system similar to our tax collector office. When you have to renew your tag or driver's license, you can make an appointment, you show up, no matter how long the line is, you go to the front. Palm Beach County has promised to work with me to bring that here so that you can pick the location and the time where you want to vote. So if you're a parent with kids that love to run around and don't pay attention, if you are a senior standing in August's heat, or if you work a job and don't have the luxury of standing in line for 45 minutes or 2 hours like it is at Alafaya, you can go and make an appointment and know that you will be in and out in less than 10 minutes. And I think that that is how we get more people involved in the process. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Grund.
I agree with Mr. Hodge on that, and that's getting the electorate engaged in the process and getting them technologically processes that help them. So I do like your idea, Wes, on the sign up and save your spot. We obviously know that for qualification. So I think for early voting, that's imperative. And I also agree with you on being where the citizens are. They're the ones we want to get the vote out. We want every vote. We want all our citizens to be voting. I don't know if you all remember the campaign Once Upon a Time, Get Out the Vote. I think we need to not get out the vote, rock your vote. We all, I think, are still speaking the get out the vote, but rock your vote. And going to the events where the citizens are. And we can do that in this office. We have, but it's working with our community partners in those locations so that our ballots are secure and that when people cast them, that they can trust that their vote is going to be counted, but also going to the people. So I think that's how we really engage our community in the early voting, is going where they're at.
All right. Ms. Castor-Dental.
Thank you. So this is a great topic. I support expanding locations, but not just in number, but looking at where are our voting deserts. The NAACP has a legal defense fund where they have identified these voting deserts in our county. So if we were to coordinate and put those expanded locations in there, we could see some improvement in turnout. I'd also look at flexible hours so that we are meeting the needs, or better meeting the needs of our shift workers who don't always have time during the day to vote. But this is an important issue because when I was in the legislature, or when I was running for the legislature, I remember voting the early voting site at the Winter Park Library. And there was an Eatonville library that was not used as an early voting site, and yet so many people in that community didn't have reliable transportation. And I met with Bill Cowles afterwards and said, why not Eatonville Library? And he said that there were restrictions based on the size and parking. So I filed a bill and expanded the locations.
Excellent. Nice dismount, thank you. Ms. Harris.
So I believe in bringing the mountain to Muhammad instead of Muhammad going to the mountain. One of the things that I'd like to see is the express vote machine in nursing homes and rehab facilities. That will make it very much convenient so that we can get to that 99% versus that 1%. Also, access on college campuses. kids are doing final exams and other things that they're doing on campuses. If we bring those machines on those locations, that I think that would make it more accessible to others. Also, with the early voting, we must expand. As was stated before, we have 20 locations. We need to bring that number up. Once we bring that number up, we can also make sure that we are not in a low voter turnout as we have been in the past. The key is getting everyone access to voting, and I believe the express vote machine will be one of the key things that will make sure that our seniors and our young people are covered. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, so you've heard debates where...
What about Dan?
Wait, I'm so sorry. My notation says, you are correct, sir. Good. That was a test. You have passed. Well done.
Few amount of minutes to speak as it is. So early voting, all of the above, good ideas all around. Cynthia's mentioning supervised voting, which is supervisor elections under the statute is allowed to go to nursing homes, assisted care facilities, and have supervised voting at those locations. It's a great service. In terms of early voting, I think that we can use our website and technology to tell people which locations are busier. In other counties, sometimes they have a green, yellow, red system so that you know how busy a location is before you show up. It's a good use of technology. I also think we can have an app for that, right? So particularly reaching I'm the youngest candidate, the younger generation, we use apps, right? So having push notifications telling people, hey, there's an election coming up. That's how you can increase turnout, increase information to the voter so that they know where their polling location is, where they can go early vote. We have a great partnership with the library system. I think that should continue. I mean, early voting is critical. It's important. It's how people can express their vote in an easy way when they're not working.
All right, thank you. And so I think from those answers, I've got the answer to this next question. So it's going to be a 10-second question. And the totally improper question is this. Would you as a candidate today pledge that at your first general election, which should happen in 2026, that you will ensure the voters a maximum number of available hours for early voting, a maximum number of facilities for early voting in as much as at least as many as we had in 2020? And that's the question, starting here. Yes.
Yes, I would support that.
Ms. Harris.
Yes, I fully support it.
Mr. Helm.
Yes, I mean, this is one of the areas that the supervisor elections does have discretion. So if our current supervisor elections decided to only have 3 or 1 early voting location, they could change that. So I will support what we currently have and expand it.
And 10. Good job. Okay, next.
Yes, with the City of Orlando special election that we're seeing right now, there's different hours on different days, and that's creating confusion with the voters. And guess what? That's voter suppression. So I will promise to you that you will not have inconsistent early voting hours. I will maximize the locations. You've already heard I want to expand it. You've already heard about my appointment system, so there we go.
All right, Ms. Grund.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Yes, of course. Of course, it also will have to evaluate budget, and that will also depend on the citizens who approve that budget, because that's who our true bosses are in this position. The citizens are the ones that elect us, and those are the ones we're here to serve.
Understood. So, all right, we are covered early voting. One voting method left, and that's Election Day. Speaking of Election Day, I want to clarify that we are here talking about an election that the primary election will happen on August 20th. And then we will have a general election in November. You will get a chance to vote for 4 of these candidates in August, and that will be the Democratic primary. And then there will be the general election where the winner of the August 20 primary, and by the way, that would be a plurality. It's not a top 2, it's top 1. So steel cage match, 4 people enter, 1 leaves. And that person will then get to, at the current time, if the candidates stay the way they are, would contest with Ms. Harris, who is the NPA. Of course, qualifying doesn't end until noon on Friday, so stay tuned. But that is the current state of the candidates, and I wanted to clarify for everyone here when this voting will happen. So, voting will happen on Election Day. talking about Election Day, if the candidates would tell me your thoughts about Election Day, the number of precincts, the role of poll watchers, and any improvements you might suggest as a supervisor of election to enhance the opportunity of an elector to get in and out successfully on Election Day. Ms. Grund, we have not given you an opportunity to start, so the microphone is yours for all of a minute. Go.
Thank you. So I didn't mention my least favorite thing to do is to talk about myself, but I will get really good at it in this position. So Bill Cowles and I went to the same school. I don't know if you heard of it, UCF. We studied, I studied nonprofit management and he studied public affairs within the College of Health and Public Affairs. So I understand data. I understand how things work. When you mentioned the poll places, I called yesterday and talked to Jackie, an amazing worker who's working hard for you. And we have 247 polling places that everybody will get to vote at. And so there's 264 precincts, but those are our polling places. So when you get to vote on August 20th, you will only get to vote if you're a Democrat or Republican. So I don't know if I'll have another chance, because these minutes are going really quick. You can only vote if you're a Democrat or Republican. Now you can change your voter registration.
Leave it to the moderator to clarify. Please continue. I just heard mumbling, so you're...
Mumbling? That's the truth. I mean, we're a closed primary state, so that's the reality of our situation. So unless... Is this not a primary election?
It is. What you're hearing the mumbling for is that all NPAs can and should vote on the August 20th election because...
Thank you for the clarification.
There we go.
So for our position that I'm running for...
Yes, now you've got it.
And the four of us on the ballot, NPAs will not get to choose your supervisor of election for your Democratic candidate. I hope that clarifies. I'm sorry, I will work on...
No, we knew what you meant. So, okay. Ms. Castor-Dental.
Okay, I think I understand your question, but yes, we have about 250 polling places, and that is a very high bar to get all of them staffed. And I know that is one of Bill Cowles' legacy programs, is the Adopt a Precinct program. And the League is one of the leaders in volunteers who work to fulfill all those roles of clerks and all sorts of, you work from early in the morning to late at night, and I appreciate all of the effort of this organization, but there are so many civic organizations like Rotary clubs and booster clubs that also participate, and hospitals. So I would continue to reach out to large employers and other civic organizations to help staff those polling places. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harris, Election Day.
So Election Day, a lot of people have already early voted. So when the elections are coming up, they're not bothered about Election Day anymore, because we have these opportunities to vote by mail or early vote, and Election Day is kind of falling through the cracks. We must continue to educate people to let them know that they have these options, not just the two options that have been spoken of earlier. We must make sure that if you haven't voted, that you get out to vote. We kind of dropped the ball when we assume that people have already voted prior to Election Day. We must still continue to educate. We must still continue our grassroots efforts and make sure that everyone is knowledgeable about how the process works and that their voices and their votes matter. If we don't do that, we'll continue to lose ground as far as turnout, and the people that should be voting for you are not voting for you.
All right, Mr. Helm.
That magical day, Election Day, right? When you show up at the polls and you exercise the franchise, people often refer to me as Dan the voting man, because I'm knowledgeable about election law. People ask me questions and I have the answers. But my favorite part of election law doesn't actually occur in the election code 97 through 106. It occurs in the flag code. When you look at our flag, it is required to be placed at the polling location on Election Day. So that's why you see it either taped up on a window, or in Orange County we use those plastic banner signs that have the flag posted there. It's required. Because that's what it's about, folks. This is not a Republican States of America. It's not a Democratic States of America. It's the United States of America. When we took that pledge, we said, one nation, indivisible. And on our E pluribus unum, out of many, one. That's what the flag represents. It's when we show up to vote and exercise a franchise. I'm passionate about voting because it's important.
Thank you, Dan, the voting man. Mr. Hodge, Election Day.
Accessibility is very important to me, and one of the first things that I'm going to do is empower a Disability Advisory Board to audit all of our voting precincts and early voting locations to make sure that if you have a physical limitation, a visual limitation, an auditory limitation, or a neurodiversity issue, that our polls are able to adequately accommodate you. I also want to make sure that you can get to the polls. Tildenville is a great example. Their precinct runs east-west, just south of the Turnpike. There's a green belt that splits that precinct in half. And the residents of Tildenville, not all of them have cars, and they have to vote on the other side in Winter Garden. And there's not a bus route that takes them directly from their community to the polling location. Again, that's disenfranchisement. Let's move the voting location into Tildenville and let the residents that live in Winter Garden that have the vehicles drive to Tildenville to vote early. Let's make sure that we're making it as accessible as possible. Jill, I promise you I got a lot more to say, but we're good.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. All right, so we've talked about the different forms of voting. Let's talk about a few other issues that are, that weigh upon the SOE's office, and one of them is the issue of cybersecurity. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But we know this, that there are a bevy of interests, foreign and domestic, who might not be having our best interest at heart. So we have rotated back to you, Ms. Castrodental, if you would like to start us on a very brief 60 seconds or less discussion of cybersecurity and what the SOE can do.
All right, well, thank you. So the SOE's office can certainly put in those cybersecurity features to protect voter data. And I believe we already have a lot of that in place. Part of the threat that I think we face is from artificial intelligence and misinformation of the voters, not necessarily located at the supervisor's office, but on your phone or on your computer. There is a concerted effort to misinform voters and decrease the turnout and increase the distrust of a lot of our institutions. So I think we need to make sure that as an SOE office, we put information out so that people know that the supervisor's office is a trusted source of information. And we do that through outreach and communication and making sure that we are communicating with the voters frequently.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Harris.
So as I stated earlier, the two most important ladies in my life were my grandmothers, the giants that I stand on the shoulders of. A lot of people have not caught up with technology. So we must still make sure that we are doing creative things to make sure that our voters are still engaged, involved, and educated. With cybersecurity, I believe that the office already has some measures in place. However, nothing is foolproof, and we can always stand to continue protecting our vote. But we must still continue to make sure that technology arises with those who have not caught up with it and educate them so that cybersecurity would not even be an option when it comes to voting.
Mr. Elm.
So in Florida, we used to have the hanging chads, remember that? And then we switched to touch screens. We now vote on paper, right? So we vote a paper ballot. In Orange County, we use systems from ES&S, the DS300s and the DS950s, which we bought last year. Those machines essentially take your ballot, and you can scan it any orientation in, but we retain the paper records. One thing that I'm passionate about, and I know Nick Shannin is going to roll his eyes, but is ballot images. Ballot images are something that I brought repeatedly to the Supervisor of Elections Office because they are not being saved in accordance with the law. Your ballot goes in, it's scanned. The GS3 schedules for retention records say that those records should be saved for 22 months. We currently delete all the ballot images in Orange County. We're shredding the digital record. It's a transparency issue. It's a public records issue. It's an important issue that is being violated right here in Orange County. In Volusia County, if I requested 100% of the ballot images, I would get them because they're following the law. We need to follow the law here.
The moderator would like to reserve 20 minutes for rebuttal. But
well, Nick, I'm going to help you get started on that.
Go ahead. Wes, I'll tag you in on it.
All right. So we actually do have an imaging system here. It's called the Clear system, and we just started using it to capture ballot images and retain them. And it's great because you can actually go to a ballot and pull up the image and see how it was counted and if it was an undercount or an overvote, why was it that way? And you can actually look. You'd be amazed the way people fill out ballots, by the way. It's insane. So anyway, I want to just clear that up. But my answer is thank you to Supervisor Cowles, because he just bought brand new machines, the DS300s. So we have the latest technology available from a security aspect. I also have worked with Mike Seif, who is the manager of Orange TV, Orange County's own television network. I want them to televise the canvassing boards. And I applaud our supervisor for live streaming, the ballot counting. We should have been doing that a long time ago. You want to talk about transparency? We've got to bring the people into the process and let them know, and I am fully committed to doing that. I also want to make sure that we have more online presence. We've heard about the issue of misinformation. The Supervisor of Elections doesn't even have an Instagram account. We've got to get that information out, and I'm being told to stop.
All right, thank you. Ms. Grund.
I'm going to follow up with that misinformation and the security there. Thank you, Glenn, for the transparency of the live streaming of counting our votes. I think that's imperative. That'll help us battle that. And that's an internal audit, and I think audits should be welcome within the Office of the Supervisor of Elections. All we have is our experiences. So a previous election that I was involved in, I had the media call me, and they were asking me questions, and they said to me, "Oh, I don't need answers to these. I already saw the video of you." And I said, "Oh, what video are you talking about?" And they're like, "Oh, the one from the League of Women Voters." It was from another campaign who had edited that video, and my answers were cut off. I mean, I do a fine job. Clearly, I misspoke. It's very nerve-wracking up here. But the reality is it wasn't a trusted source, and that was the media. And I think the supervisor has to take leadership in being that media source, that source of information with our trusted nonprofits and community members who are getting our candidates an opportunity to speak. But I think it's really critical that you should know, if you want to know where candidates stand, you look for the Supervisor of Elections.
Excellent. All right, the moderator's being told that they do, in fact, now have an Instagram account. They have deleted their MySpace account to make room for that. So, all right, well, I had a wonderful question about ballot length and amendments, but the League of Women Voters does such a good job with getting the word out on amendments that we know that that's where that war will be fought. I am going to ask a 30-second question, and strictly 30 seconds since we're out of time. And the question is this, partisan politics. The Supervisor of Election Office across the state is run as a partisan election. Do you think it should be, and if you're elected, will you run it in a way that is party-oriented or otherwise? And we started that with Ms. Castellanos, so Ms. Harris, you get to go first. 30 seconds.
So that's one of the reasons why I am in this race as an MPA, because I believe that this race should be a nonpartisan race. You should be able to cross the street on both sides without any options or obstacles. Right now, with being partisan, we are separated from one another. We are like little kids in a sandbox, and that's not correct, because after the election is over, we still have to live and breathe in the same space. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, or MPA. You should be able to walk on both sides of the aisle. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Helm.
So I said earlier, I think the office should be run in a nonpartisan, efficient manner, right? So I want to continue the legacy of Bill Cowles in that office. He ran it in a very nonpartisan, efficient manner. I wouldn't want the Republican chair of the party to be the one counting the votes. I wouldn't want a former chair of the Democratic Party being the one counting the votes. It should be run in a nonpartisan, efficient manner. Oh, I like him. He knows I like him. It should be nonpartisan. It should be efficient. This league, it takes a nonpartisan stance. It should continue that way.
And the Tiger Bay Fang and Claw Award goes to, oh, I'm sorry. Well, what do you know? Mr. Hodge, you get to go next.
There you go. Well, I will say that being party chair allowed me to have the insight that nobody else on this panel has as to how the office runs, and that's very important because while this role, counting votes, is nonpartisan, if you look around the state, the Democratic supervisors of elections have the maximum days of early voting, the maximum hours of early voting, and the Republicans do not. So you need to know what you're buying, what you're getting when you vote, and that label lets you know what you're getting. I'm proud to say that I have tripartisan support. I have support of the Republicans, the Democrats, and the MPAs, and I have a great relationship with my Republican chair counterpart, and they know that they can work with me because I've always been fair with them in the past, so that is not a concern.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Ms. Grund.
I definitely support a nonpartisan direction in this role. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, nonpartisan, I would be serving you. And I think that is important. Obviously, I'm a Democrat, and sadly, my nonpartisans don't get to vote to put me into the next election, and I think that's a problem. So I would support each and every voter, and so yes, let me take this opportunity to say I'm trying to take money out of politics because I do think the partisanship within money is an issue in our campaigns.
Excellent. Thank you. Ms. Castor-Dental, you get the final word here.
All right, thank you. So, of course, I am a Democrat, a lifelong Democrat, and I hold true to those values of equality and justice and fairness, but I would certainly operate the office in a nonpartisan manner because it is so much more important to democracy for all voters to trust the outcome of the elections. And that's a key word, is trust. I've worked hard to earn the trust of voters as an elected official, and I've been accountable to voters over the years. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, and thank you to each of these panelists for enduring all of my questions. Well done. But just when you think it's over, apparently the league allows members to ask a few short questions as well. So with that, I'm going to ask Ms. Gina Hall if she will she's over there, she is ready with a microphone, and a league member only, if you would like to ask a question that will elicit a 30-second type of response. And I believe Judge Smith is our first offeree here. So take it away, Gina. First a wardrobe malfunction, now a technical difficulty.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now.
Perfect. Okay, so if you have one question to ask, please get in line. No comments, no concerns. And once a month, the league gives me this mic to play with, so I'm going to hold on to it while you ask your question.
My name is Maura Smith, a league member. What would you change at the Supervisor of Elections office?
All right, I would say 30 seconds or less, and Ms. Grund started that, so I guess we're back to Ms. Castor-Dental. Oh, Ms. Harris? Oh, it was with Ms. Harris, so Mr. Helm, thank you. We've got our good account.
30 seconds, what would I change? So there are a lot of changes. I just talked about ballot images. I can talk about early voting expansion. I can talk about the app for that. But one thing that's critical is also information coming from the office. There's a question this week on amendments, on when the deadline is for amendments. There needs to be a clear answer on that. Historically, under Bill Cowles, it was the end of August because it made sense. You know, we didn't have the results from the primary, so we hadn't printed the ballots yet. That should be the policy. That should be the policy coming from the office. We haven't heard a clear answer. I wish Glenn would answer it.
All right. Mr. Hodge.
Thank you. I would expand the Adopt a Precinct program. I would also like to overhaul the website, which is great if it was 1998, but we need a new website. But also the biggest thing is I would be working to advocate for accessibility. We have the technology. Ms. Harris spoke about the express machines. We can offer ballots in any language possible. We just need to get the licensing. So English, Spanish, Haitian, Creole, Portuguese, and Vietnamese are the top 5 languages. We should be offering ballots in those languages. Thank you.
Ms. Grund.
Thank you. The one main thing that I would be changing in this position as a government official, I can't solicit for money. So I can't ask you for money. Of course, you could donate to, obviously, the poll positions. And so what I would do is lead by example and not ask you for money as a candidate, because I think that impacts every election. It influences our candidates. And so that's where I'm leading by example. It's giving the power back to the people, to where no matter how much money I have or don't have, they get to make the decision.
All right. Ms. Castro-Dental.
Right. So my priorities for the office would be to expand outreach, voter education, and greater access. But given the latest headlines in the Sentinel, I would start with a code of ethics for the office. I would have. I get extra time. No. That means procurement contracts will be out for competitive bid, and even though there is no wrongdoing, you must make sure that there is no appearance of any impropriety.
And Ms. Harris.
So as I stated before, the express vote is one of the priorities that I wanted to do. But I also like to include education. I'd like to see a teen and an adult academy so that everyone is involved in the civic process. We don't have that in the supervisors of elections. We don't really have it much in the school system anymore, where people are learning about a bill. When Schoolhouse Rock, I lived off of Schoolhouse Rock. If it wasn't for that, that's what saved my life. But I also like to have a peer advisory council so that teens can also have the opportunity to be able to participate in the canvassing board.
Excellent, thank you. All right, I see a long line, and we really don't have a lot of time left, so I will invite the questioners, if they want to pick one panelist to answer a question in 30 seconds, because we just don't have time for all of them to hit all those questions, we'll go in that manner.
My name is Linda Coleman. I'm a League member, and my question will be to Mr. Holm, and it's about the ERIC program. This is a program I understand was a quality control program that was voted in by DeSantis 3 years ago and has now been eliminated.
Great question. So Dan Helm, I am very familiar with ERIC. It was a great program that would allow us, and there are 27 other states in the country, to look at addresses. So when somebody was moving, for instance, in 2020, I called out voter fraud because the man who murdered George Floyd, Derek Chauvin by name, was living in Minnesota, but he voted here in Orange County illegally, right? So where you live matters. ERIC was a system that sadly the legislature has moved away from as a state. So I can't implement ERIC on my own, but it is a great system to make sure people don't commit voter fraud.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Kelly Semrad. My question pertains to the rural boundary, and it's coming to Wes Hodge because he spoke at the BCC on the rural boundary. I'm the citizen that initiated that. We put it in last July, and it was preempted by the state when special interest intervened. Right now, the citizens are now being told that we don't know when the deadline is for the supervisor of election to get that ballot language on. It's been being withheld from the media. What are you going to do differently to ensure that citizens feel safe that special interest hasn't influenced the supervisor of elections office?
Mr. Hodge, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Kelly. I was proud to be the only person on the panel that was in the room to support letting the people decide. No person, let alone an appointed person, should be making a decision for 800,000 Orange County voters. Day one, I will adopt a policy that is clear for all of our counties and cities, or county and cities, what the process is to get a ballot initiative on the ballot. And in this instance, I would do 10 days after the primary election day, which is August 20th, because that is when all the overseas ballots have to come in, and that is the deadline Orange County should have, and we should not be playing games with people's initiatives. Thank you.
Next question, and if you would, pick someone other than Mr. Helm or Mr. Hodge, just to give it fair and balanced.
I'm not going to pick any of the panelists, please. I'm confused. We look at the bulletin board up there, and it says Supervisor of Elections Candidate Forum, and the current Supervisor of Elections is among them, but he is not a candidate, but he still has until Friday. I really want to know, we've heard 5 good candidates, whether he is going to be a candidate by Friday or not.
That was, I'm being told that I think our time is up.
Answer the question.
Answer the question. So as part of today, Mr. Gilzean was asked whether he would be here as a candidate or supervisor of election. He said he would be here as supervisor of election. We asked him not to announce here. To answer that question could possibly break that agreement. And so we understand the concern, but I'm going to ask us to move on.
So much for transparency.
The president has spoken. So, all right, we have a couple more quick questions, and then we will move along. Move along. There's nothing to see here. Move along. Okay.
My name is Farrellyn Livingston. I'm a league member, and my question is for Castor Dental. What would you do to ensure the safety of our poll workers and the voters who are at the poll?
Ms. Castor Dental.
Thank you. Well, I think having our poll workers trained and in not just in personal safety, but also in how to de-escalate any person who is upset. We also have hotlines that people can call if there is an issue. I'm hesitant to bring in a large law enforcement presence because that adds another element of potential voter suppression. But there is definitely a concern about safe polling places. Thank you.
Excellent question. And please.
So my apologies to the candidates who didn't get a question, but this is also for member Castor Dental. Similar to the rural boundary getting on the ballot, the half-penny sales tax, I hear, may be at risk. Can you explain what the half-penny sales tax does for our school infrastructure and buildings and how that would negatively affect our school district, please?
30 seconds, Ms. Castor Dental.
All right, thank you. So the school board is asking to renew our half-penny sales tax, and it was approved and sent to the county commission, and then it was sent on to the supervisor's office where it was accepted, but then it has since been, we've been notified that it is under legal review, and it sounds like that is being changing the rules of the game in the middle of play. So it's important because if it is not on the ballot, it could be devastating to our schools to the tune of $4.5 billion loss.
Thank you for the answer. Mr. Alderman, your question will go to both Ms. Grund and Ms. Harris, who have not gotten the chance to respond to audience questions. So whatever it is, go for it.
Okay, and this is our last question.
So we've heard a lot about candidates qualifying. Candidates can qualify by either paying the filing fee or with petitions. We haven't heard anything about petitions. I know there's been some concern about candidate petitions, regardless of the position, not being counted timely. What would you do to ensure that petitions are timely filed? I'd be curious for Mr. Hodges' response as well.
Well, I'm not going to give him the open floor on that, but Ms. Harris, you get first crack.
So in the office, there was 15 staffers who were counting petitions. What has transpired in this election system is that we have turned in our petitions and they were never counted. And they weren't counted on time, and they weren't filed with the Division of Elections on time. So therefore, all of the candidates that you see up here have to pay to play. And not just us up here, but other candidates that are running for office.
Ms. Grund, do you have anything to add on petition gathering?
I do. Interestingly enough, in front of me, I have a check for $11,605.14, and that's what it costs to run in this office. If you think you're qualified, please step up to the plate. I'd love to help you. We need more people engaged in this process. We need more candidates. I know we always grumble like, oh, these are our politicians, but our politicians should be our people, and that's how we get there. Every election, we plant the seed for our next generation, and so whether it's this election or the next, I have a goal, I have a dream to get money out of elections, out of campaigns, so that the power goes back to the people, and they're the ones choosing our next elected official.
And with that, we have concluded the question and answer portion of this debate, a very lively and robust informational session with 5 excellent candidates. Again, your election will be on August 20th for 4 of them. The other one will be in November. Stay tuned for other details as they develop. And with that, I've been Nick Shannin, been very honored to be here. Thank you.
What a great discussion. I'd like to first start by thanking Supervisor of Elections Glen Gilzean for being here and presenting on the office. And to Nick Shannin, who's done an incredible job of moderating this forum. And to our candidates, Karen Castro-Littell, Cynthia Harris, Dan Helm, Wes Hodge, and Sunshine Grun, thank you for a lively discussion. You may take your seats. We have a few more announcements and other things to go over, so give us a few minutes. I tell you, sitting here, I've learned a lot today, and I thought I knew a bit. Talk louder. If everyone can stay seated until we finish the program, we'd appreciate it. We have a few more things to go over. With all of the information we've heard on what can be done about voting.
Somebody left us in the men's room.
Someone left a phone in the men's room. If this looks familiar, first and foremost, it's up here. One of my favorite topics is cybersecurity. And while that area is not one that we as voters have any control over, there are many actions that were discussed today that we do have control over. And I do hope you will join me in looking at your checklists and the calls to action to see if there are other things that you can do as a voter, as a concerned citizen, and as an engaged part of the electorate to make sure that our elections are all they can be this fall and in this very consequential 2024 election season. First and foremost is to be informed and be engaged. And those of you who are here today are obviously among the informed and engaged voters, electorate. Thank you for being here. For those online, we thank you for listening in. As a representative of the League of Women Voters, we ask you to please consider volunteering. Your help with us getting people out to vote, especially in areas where there is a low turnout, will help this election and the future of our elections be more representative of what we consider to be a great democracy. We've heard a lot about vote by mail. And I saw that there were hands that did not go out or up when the question was asked about whether people had renewed their vote by mail status. So if you have not, and you are a vote by mail person, please take a few minutes, do it. There are all kinds of easy ways to do it. It is the easiest thing to do. And since I'm going to be away on August 20th, I'm definitely voting by mail. The Supervisor of Elections office has a table set up on the way out with all kinds of great information, including the vote by mail application. So take advantage of being here today. If you're not doing it on your phone, fill out a paper and you're done. Sign up for phone banking. We recommend Floridians Protecting Freedom as one, but there are many. Use the Yes on 4 campaign's new app. It's called Reach, to build your own network to support the Yes on 4 campaign. That's one of the amendments that will be on the ballot. Supporters of solar energy are invited to join our league member, Mary DuBois. Mary, can you raise your hand? There she is. Mary and others will be attending a meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. to advocate for the continuation of the solar net metering. It will be at 100 West Anderson Street. Please join her. Advocate for clean water. You probably saw on your tables petitions. We are reinitiating the petition drive this year. I've signed before, but we're starting over again. So please sign petitions. They're on your table. You can do it online, and I think there's also more at the door. Please visit our display tables on the way out. Was it worth showing up today to be a part of this event? Let us know then your feedback. We value that. We have several ways you can do it. The easiest for those of you who are savvy on this is scan the QR code. It only takes a few minutes. You can also go to your handout. There should be a handout on your table to do the same, but please give us your feedback. That helps us make this event even better each time. I'd like to go over a few more things. First is to thank everyone who helped make this day possible, starting with the great food we had today. We love the vegetarian options. Cuisineurs, great job. The Winter Park Event Center team, outstanding. TJ McCauley doing our videography. Charlie Behrens, thank you. And our incredible Hot Topics team. Will everybody on the Hot Topics team please stand? Thank you. Today is one of those days where we will not have Hot Topics overtime, so we can all go home a little earlier. I do want to announce what's coming up before we all leave. Our next Hot Topics will be another Hot Forum. It will be our judicial forum, Courting Voters. You do not want to miss that. That will be on July 10th. A few other announcements. Our Juneteenth festival, that there will be a Juneteenth festival on June 15th. We will be manning a table at Camping World Stadium from 2 to 7. Please come out and visit us. We are also looking for a couple more volunteers for that event. So please go to our website under volunteering and sign up if you are available that afternoon. I think it's from 4 to 7. The League of Women Voters National Convention is coming up, and at this point, if you haven't signed up for it, it's a bit too late, but we will have lots of great information, I'm sure, to share when we come back. The Orlando Yes on 4 Super Saturday event will be on June 22nd from 10 to 12 p.m. It will be a great place to learn best practices on how to talk to voters about supporting Amendment 4. Last, I'd like to invite any of you who are not League members to please join. And for everyone who's here to please join us as a volunteer. We can never have enough volunteers. As the chair of the Fund Development Committee, I would be missing something if I also didn't ask you to please donate. And I would also like to acknowledge that there were people who walked in the room today and donated, so thank you. Thank you. And if there are no further announcements, there are? Terry Gillum. Okay. So, Terry, I think what you're saying is you're working on the Vote 411 online information. Are you asking for volunteers?
No, I'm asking for you to go there and find out about what the candidates have to say. And if they don't answer, call them up and say, why didn't you answer?
So Terry is saying, please use our vote411.org information guide to find out information on candidates. There are some candidates who are not participating in providing information for us to make available to the public. And she's also suggesting that you ask those candidates who are refusing why, and keep that in mind when you vote. So, I will say again, if there are no further announcements, thank you for coming. We are adjourned.